Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kitchen Table Bible Studies. I'm Brother Kevin, and we're giving an update on really not an update, but a kind of a collective what is going on with this election. And it's my belief that this election is being stolen from the President of the United States. Now, I'm going to say this. When you have a fair election, meaning there's no illegal voting, no dead people voting, no software glitches, none of that kind of stuff. Everything, you know, people who are allowed to vote can vote, um, and all that kind of stuff. Your votes are legal, they're signed, they're stamped, whatever, all that kind of stuff. When you have a proper election, I can have no choice but to live without the outcome. If you have a fair election, what I mean by fair, and we are one thing I want to say real quick. It's starting to bother me over and over again, and I see Republicans saying it all the time. Democrats always say it. This democracy, we are not a democracy. All right, we are a constitutional republic. Democracy is mob rule, and that's why our founding fathers distrusted mob rule, and that's why they set up a constitutional republic. All right. That's why we have representatives and so forth. Now, so when people say we need to protect this democracy, no, we need to protect this constitutional republic. Now, it's turning into a democracy, which is mob rule. And I kind of want to go back to election night. My brother John, who served in the United States Army, we were different opinions. I said that President Trump was going to win by a landslide, and he said they're going to cheat him out of the White House. End quote. In other words, they're going to hand it over to Vice President Biden. And so we were both right in the sense of this. And we don't know what the final outcome is going to be yet, but I don't know exactly what it is. I posted it on my Facebook timeline, which I've been shadow banned on. And I think it was within 31% of precincts voting, all right, or being counted, that were being counted. They stopped counting. They stopped counting and sent everyone home for an hour, then resumed. And as soon as that happened, I said, here, I think my brother's going to be right. The fix was in. When I saw that, because before I went to bed, President Trump was it was like Mondale and Reagan all over again. It was not even close. And and we're talking about a man and Vice President Biden who can barely get anybody to his rallies, rather than President Trump's rallies were tens of thousands of people and 5,000 and 4,000. You get the picture. You've seen the pictures. And when I saw that, you get that sinking feeling like, oh, here it goes. What's up? And this goes back to the corona. Well, it goes back right at his. If you want, there's a movie called A Plot to Take Down the President, Take Out the President on Amazon, and it goes through that. The day of his inauguration, as soon as President Trump was inaugurated, do you know they had articles of impeachment already ready? Nancy Pelosi, before she was even majority leader, she already had articles of impeachment already ready to go. That's how crazy these people are. And because they cannot have a man who's actually president. I want you to think about that for a minute. a man who's actually president. It reminds me of that quote, John Voight and his character in Mission Impossible when he worked for the CIA. And his character said at the end, and he's talking to Tom Cruise, he's talking about how little money they make and all that kind of stuff. He goes, and then one day you wake up and the president is running the country, the son of a gun. How dare he? Well, how dare President Trump actually to run the country rather than being a puppet like President Obama was a puppet, in my belief. All right. President Bush, another puppet. Clinton, another puppet. Daddy Bush, a puppet. Reagan, not a puppet. And so Kennedy, not a puppet. Johnson, a puppet. You notice how throughout history, when they're not puppets, they want to get them out and take them out. Well, when they stopped the counting, I knew that something was going on. The fix was in. Something bad was going to happen. And I was hoping with the cheating that was about to happen, and we knew the cheating was about to happen, this coronavirus is more than just about a virus. Yes, I know the coronavirus is real. All right. But you have to know this is according to John Hopkins. And I'll always look it up, John Hopkins. And I'll tell you the numbers right now. And they are... now, I'm going to preface this by saying this. No death is good. I'll die one day. You'll die one day. Nobody wants to die. No one wants to see anybody die. All right. President Trump did not give us this coronavirus. I have yet to see one person in the media, all right, from the Democrat side, blame China for this. This came from them, as SARS did, as H1N1 flu did, as the bird flu did, as Ebola did. This all came from them, all right. And they say it was how he managed it. He locked down the country. He locked down the country. And he was called xenophobic for banning flights from China and Europe and all this other. He did everything he could do to protect the American people. Now there was 10,736,082 cases in the United States and 244,304 U.S. deaths. Now listen to this. Only 14,658 died only from coronavirus and not motorcycle accidents or any other complications in the U.S. All right. And that's from John Hopkins. That's the stats right there. And that means that is 1/6 of a flu season, because we don't know how the other 230,000 or so people, 229,000 and some change, died, because the hospitals were given $30,000 a piece, all right, for every COVID-related death. And I know someone who works at actually two people work at the hospital and verified that and said that's actually true. That's being on the ground and talking to people. Instead of saying they died of a heart attack, they write down COVID. But what if COVID caused a heart attack? Well, what if it didn't? We don't know. We don't know. Because the hospital business is big business too. Follow the money. Sometimes you just got to follow the money. But when the coronavirus got here, and then I started to hear whispers after the lockdown, when we went to lockdown and they started talking about the election, because it's election year, obviously, and they started talking about, I said, about mail-in ballots, and I said, well, that's it. That's going to be fraudulent. Because there's two ways to vote. There's only should be two ways to vote. Oh, you get yourself up, as my brother would say, veteran is, get your butt up out of bed or whatever you're doing, go down and vote in person, show your ID and vote. Another way my father did it was absentee ballot, where you have to have verification, identification, where you live, proof where you live, proof you're alive, all kinds of stuff. It's stringent. But this mail-in voting, none of that applied. And we're finding that out as we go along. When you have a 170-year-old man, all right, what was his name, David Jones or someone, all right, voted. There was another case here where, now they've been doing this tactic for a long time, but we didn't have the technology to bust them. But we have it now. Now see if I can get to my Facebook here, Messenger. I have so many little apps on here. I try to get the things. I can't get to them anymore. Someone says, watch this. I said, I'm watching. Okay. See if I can find it here. Peggy don't have it. Let me see here. Who sent it to me? I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry for taking up the time here, but this is important. It's 3 minutes and 21 seconds.
All right, my name is Timothy Smith, and I'm just making a quick video today. I'm just a normal, everyday American citizen. I love my country. I love my family. I love God. I'm a born-again Christian, and anything I can do, I want to be able to do, and I don't want to look my kids in the eye and say I did nothing. So I have some evidence of voter fraud in the state of Michigan, and I'm sure if it's there, it's in other places. This example will be Detroit. I would also look into Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia, and other places. Because of the China virus, I believe that there are hundreds of thousands of fraudulent mail-in votes because they knew they could use the virus as an excuse why everybody's voting by mail. But I believe a lot of these people are dead, or the ballots were fake and were generated, and I want it investigated. Whoever wins free and fair is fine, but I just want to make sure that this thing isn't stolen from American patriots like me who voted and deserve our vote to count and not to be disenfranchised by illegal or dead people's votes. Pray for me. I'm getting ready to show you. All right, here we go. This is the Michigan Secretary of State website, and this is not some conspiracy theory. This is official information on the Michigan Secretary of State website. I'm about to search for a voter. I'm just going to show you one example. It can be investigated from there in other states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. But here we go. William Bradley, March. He was born in 1902, so he'd be 118 years old. Zip code 48207, which is in Detroit. I'm going to search for him. Here we go. Here's his
118. Wow.
You can see this person, his mailing address was 2978 West Grand Boulevard, Detroit, Michigan. And over here, you can get this for me, absentee ballot for this election, November the 3rd. He received his ballot on September 11th. He sent it in on September 19th. The ballot was received and counted on October the 2nd. Remember, this gentleman was born in 1902, so he would have to be 118 years old. But check this out. We can go over here to the Social Security Death Index. Same gentleman. It's not a different gentleman. William Bradley, born 1902, Detroit, Michigan. Here we go. Searching. Boom. He was born in 1902 and he died in 1984. This is him.
Wow.
It's from, you can see over there was the official Michigan Secretary of State website. This is the same William Bradley. It can be verified through the Secretary of State and through Social Security Death Index. It's not a conspiracy, and I'm sure if there's him, there's hundreds of thousands in Detroit, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. All I'm asking is that if you see this video, share it with whoever you want to, email it, text it, get it into the right people's hands. I'm going to be submitting it to the Department of Justice, FBI, White House, Secretary of State's news outlets. Once again, my name's Timothy Smith. I'll have my email and a phone number when I send it out, and you contact me. I'll answer any questions, and I'll point you in other directions. This is just one example. Thank you. I love you. God bless America, and just continue to pray, and let's not let this thing get stolen. Amen.
All right. So there you go. Just for clarification, the absentee ballots here in Florida, where my father lived, where he cast his absentee ballot, are very much more stringent than that of Michigan. All right, that I do know, because he used them all the time, and he never had a problem. Not that, and if he did, my father was, you know, very political man. So, um, God rest his soul. But yeah, he wouldn't send it in if not. So here you have an 18-year-old man, or would be 18-year-old, but a man who died in 1984 voting. How many more? That's the question. How many more? And we don't know. We don't know. You know, to start this video and try to get my head collected all together is so hard because it's so muddy. So just bear with me as I try to break everything down. So they stopped the counting then because they were bringing in absentee or mail-in votes from dead people, unverified, no signatures. There's videos of people filling in ballots, and here's the thing, and I want you to listen to this. These are things that, you know, sometimes it's called a Freudian slip. They used to call it that. Seems like my devices don't want to work tonight. I'm trying to go to YouTube and it won't let me. Now it's hard to watch it right here. Well, it's even hard to find. Here we go. I found it. Now listen to this.
Together,
All right, just knock me off here. Just
we have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
You sure did. All right, there you go. It's from the horse's mouth. It's from the horse's mouth. And boy, did they ever. And I knew it was coming. I was just hoping there'd be enough patriots out there and poll watchers and so forth to watch for this kind of stuff. But you have to realize in battleground states, you know, who controls the bank controls the money. And so most of these places are Democrat run, the cities and so forth. And so most of them, that's where the fraud happened. And it happened in some other counties too, but that's where most of the fraud happened. Alleged fraud, all right, happened. And poll workers were thrown out. Pizza boxes were put over. You had to order from a federal judge. The judgy wudgy said, no, you have to let the Republican poll watchers back in to count those votes. And even then, they got a plan and everything to make sure they could hide in secrecy and do something. You have to look it up yourself, and you'll find out all these things. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, and that's okay. And you say, well, why can't you just accept it? Well, I'm going to have no choice but to accept it. But it does not mean this election was not stolen. And in about 3 years, we're going to find out how bad this went. All to take out one person because he was rogue. He was not a politician. He is not one of the elites in Washington. He's not part of the bureaucracy. He was for the people. All right. There's 3 things about Donald Trump, President Trump, I'll say about this and why I voted for him. And I wanted him to run in 2015 for 2016. Number 1, he's anti-war. How many new wars do we have in the Middle East by the warmongers of Bush and Obama and Clinton and Daddy Bush? How many? So y'all just think I'm just a straight up Republican? No. I'm an independent thinker. I don't like any of them. And I voted for Clinton in 92 because I was young and I was stupid. I didn't know much about anything. I just went with what everybody said, and that's going to happen. All right. But then you grow up and you get educated and you start to learn stuff and you investigate and you learn about what values you have. All right. And do they align? But for this, and that goes on, it goes on and on. But this election, the 2016 election, to send our soldiers into war, not like we did for World War II, not like we did for World War I, not like the Revolutionary War, nothing like that. The aventurism, I agree with Ron Paul on, and Rand Paul. President Trump was anti-war. Liberals should love that because they're supposed to be the party of anti-war with Code Pink and so forth. What happened? Why did you hate him so much? Because he didn't deliver a war to you? John Bolton wanted to go. That's why he fired John Bolton. John Bolton wanted to go to war in Iran. Trump said no. In fact, pulling soldiers out. Now, you're going to have soldiers going into Saudi Arabia. It's for training. All right. They're not going there to prepare for war. They go there for training. They've been doing that for the since I was a teenager in high school. That's nothing new under the sun. But I'm talking about engaging in an act of war like we meddled in Egypt under Obama and Libya and killed Gaddafi and give the rise to ISIS over there. When Bush brought us into Iraq, and we got no oil out of it and just blood in the sand from our boys and some ladies. The first Gulf War. Clinton bombing, aspirin factories and then going in Serbia, Kosovo, and butchering the Christians over there, and back in the Muslim with UN with American aircraft painted in UN colors. They're all warmongers, and that shouldn't be. And I knew he wasn't like that before he ran for president. Number two was, that was one. Another one was the economy. Do you realize that we had the best economy we had in modern history? It was sitting around 3.5, and the lowest unemployment for all races. Blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, everyone, man. That's just two. That's just two things I can name right there. That's just good enough. That's good enough. And he delivered on that. He delivered a great economy. He delivered no new wars and pulling out of old ones. And so that's two primary reasons. There are other reasons, obviously, but those are two primary reasons right there. And so here we are in 2020. Here comes the coronavirus. They locked down the nation because Dr. Fauci, who's been there forever, says lock down the country. Tells President Trump that's best to do, put the face mask on and social distancing and all this other stuff. Then you have what they deemed essential workers and the non-essential workers. Guess what? I was a non-essential worker, obviously. Mom and pop businesses, remember this, are non-essential. I would say this: anybody making an income is essential. Anybody who's a taxpayer is essential. There was someone else, and I'll just call him Histler. All right. He deemed who was essential and who wasn't essential. And I told you about the dry run. This is a dry run of control. This is not about a virus. This is about control. And this is about about election interference and mail-in voter fraud, absentee voter fraud, and those states that don't have stringent rules on them, don't require ID and everything. And also this Dominion system that came out. And right now, we're in the midst of an election stolen through mail-in ballot fraud, through absentee ballot fraud, and by software glitches, in parentheses, glitches. All right. And That's what they call it. And the press is so quick to run instead of doing their job like they're supposed to be journalists. These people are not journalists, folks. The people who you called conspiracy theorists once, they're the ones who are actually sitting on the ground and actually doing the research and trying to find out what's going on. Now, some of them I get, they go a little bit too far and everything. They're a little bit nut jobbing, they get crazy. I get that. But people who are elected officials can see it. People who are just the regular old people and everything see it and they report it. 234 affidavits of voter fraud. What more do you want? And you will never hear the voice on ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. They're all shut down and shut up. And I'm going to tell you something about Fox News. It's going down the toilet quick. It's going down. They're starting to. They are going to become part of the problem. But I implore everyone to go to Newsmax or One American Network and get your news from there. There's other ones like that, smaller ones, and you can find those on your own. And so Adam Cast is another one you can go to, and he's up and coming. He's growing a young man. Tim Pool's okay. Tim Cast is okay. And you have a few other. Liberal Hive Mind is a good one. What Finger News. I'm just trying to help you out here where to go. Where do we go from here? Because I'm afraid this election is going to be stolen. Because they used mail-in ballots. That you didn't need ID, you didn't need anything, because see, their rules in blue states are not like a lot of rules in red states. Here in Florida, when I go vote, I have to present my ID and confirm who I am. I like that. Because that's fair. Some sort of idea of who you are. You are alive and you're allowed to vote. You're not a felon. None of these other stuff. Okay? There's a reason for that. Now, this is what happened. In Pennsylvania, especially. We know what's going on in Michigan, but when they stopped it then that's when I said I thought about my brother. I said, well, dang, his prophetical thing is going to come pass. It's going to come to pass. And I had that sinking feeling. Not because President Trump may lose an election. If he lost fair and square, fine. It happens. It happens. There's been good presidents through history that have lost re-election. They were good presidents. They were great one-term presidents, but they lost. And it happens. People can get weird. They can be fickle about something. But when you are outright stealing right in front of the American people's eyes, and you have the mainstream media and big tech telling you there is nothing to see here, or they're shutting you down, like on Facebook, I've been shadow banned trying to share information and everything, because we got to think about future elections. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. People are already talking about it, and I'm one of them. I'm just all about my state now. If this gets stolen from him, President Trump, I told my brother, I said, I will never vote again in a presidential election, but I will vote the down ballot. I will write in Jesus Christ as my write-in candidate, then I'll vote the down ballot. Because I know I have no faith or confidence that my vote could be counted. Because I can tell you after this, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, of all places. Georgia used to be a strong Republican stronghold, but that's never been a battleground state. I don't know where they get this. It's a battleground state. The last time it went blue was what? I think Jimmy Carter. or Clinton, one of the two. That was a long time ago. So it's been a solid red state for a long, long time. So, but they're trying to turn it into a battleground state, and now they have, because that's going to be blue when this all. They had a recount there, and it was a sham. And you have to look it up for yourself of what was going on with the sham. They're not counting them like they're supposed to. They're not counting the legal votes. All right. They're looking at the signatures and all that kind of stuff of illegal votes that shouldn't even count to begin with. Verify the ones you can verify from legal voters. And this is the whole deal. This is legal voters versus voters who have gone on to the reward or not. And illegal voting 2 or 3 times, going in person and then sending a mail-in ballot and have your vote cast twice. That's been happening too. There's all kinds of, it's all over the internet. But right now you have big tech, all right, suppressing it. And younger people, they really don't care. And older people should know better, but that's okay. And with younger people, it's usually revolves around race and sexuality, not about real policy issues that's really going to affect them later on in life. And so the globalists are definitely behind this. They cannot have a president in office who's actually a president of the people like Reagan. That's why they tried to kill him. But they missed. They can't try again. If you mess it up, you can't try again. And so that's why they tried to bump him off. They didn't want him then. They didn't want Reagan then. They wanted Daddy Bush then. And he announced a new world order, which has been going on. That's who's been running our country behind. That's your deep state. That's what you call globalism. That's Congress. I would say 3/4 of Congress, of both chambers, are bought and paid for. You have a small minority actually working for the American people and doing their jobs. President Trump did his job. He did his job. He went in as like a businessman would do. And make sure he didn't break anything constitutionally. Whilst going through all this nonsense, all these investigations, impeachments that were nothing designed but to hurt him. But it didn't. Because I guarantee, and we all know this, real votes by real people that are legal, it's not even close. It's not even close. Now, if the same rules apply with legal votes, real people, all that stuff like that, and President Trump loses, I can live with that. I can live with that. But this is not how this is working. This is not how it's working. All right. So moving on. So you have that. You have the mail-in ballots where you have all these discrepancies with signatures and backdating and all this kind of stuff. It's a mess. Can't confirm who they are. They're dead. All this other stuff. And if you do your research, don't go on at the mainstream. You're not going to get anything from them. They're just political activists or hacks, and who watches them. You need to go to Newsmax, One American News Network, What Finger News with their links and everything, because they've done some research too. And you have to be your own journalist these days. I hate to say it. You have to be your own journalist these days. And don't engage with people in the public arena about politics. It's useless. Don't lose friends over it. It's useless because some people voted for, Democrat out of ignorance. I'm not saying the Republicans are perfect. I think they're an oligarchy, but there is a minority of them that are good people. And President Trump really wasn't a Republican either. He was really truly an independent. But the way everything is, set up, it's set up in a way that you have to run in one of the other parties. And that's sad. And that's our fault too, because we allowed it to happen. American people didn't stand up. here we are. But here in the American Thinker, another thing happened with this, all right, software called Dominion. Now, in 30 states, a computer system, this is dated November 7th, in 30 states, a computer system known to be defective is tallying votes. When Kyle Becker heard about the glitchy computer, it's in quotes, program in Antrim County, Michigan, the one that tried to give 6,000 Trump votes to Biden, he started doing his research into the system. He ended up finding out an amazing amount of highly disturbing information. The Dominion system has been known for some time to be defective, yet 28 states use it. This post is a compilation of Becker's information, both in his own tweets, which are being suppressed, by the way, of course, and one other person's tweet about what's going on with that system. Now, it says that massive ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans. Tabulating software glitched. We now have discovered that 47 counties use that same software. Now, this is Michigan GOP chair reveals corrupt software flipped thousands of votes from Trump to Biden. The next tweet is censored because even though Becker states only facts, they don't want facts. They don't care about that. Twitter wants you to know the facts don't matter. All right. It goes on and says Twitter is evil, but effectively owns the public square. And that's true. The election software system in Michigan that switched 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden is called Dominion, which means, by the way, in the book of in the Bible, in the New Testament, it means to subjugate, to be under subjugation, to be ruled. This is what we're being ruled by now. Software, computers, AI that can be tampered with. And add humans into it, and it's a mess. It is used in 30 states, including, here we go, Nevada, Arizona, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Every single major swing state, every single one. Now, Dominion was used by that. Now, I want you to listen to Sean Hannity. Now, I don't watch Sean Hannity. I don't watch Fox News and everything. But this is reposted in here, and you have to understand. You have to hear this. This is important, and it's 6 minutes 50 seconds. And listen to what he has to say here.
Now, and that's one of the major systems that were used to cast their ballots last week. The company is called Dominion Voting. It's used in 28 states, as reported by JustTheNews.com and John Solomon. Several days ago, Dominion came under heavy fire after allegations that their machines caused thousands of votes in one Michigan county to be switched from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. Take a look.
In Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity. Antrim County had to hand count all of the ballots, and these counties that use this software need to closely examine their results for similar discrepancies.
Now, tonight we did reach out to Dominion, and they are claiming that this was caused by a human error, had nothing to do with their operating system. But according to several reports, there may be a lot more to the story. For example, back in June, during Georgia's primary, there were a lot of serious issues surrounding the state's Dominion voting machines. According to the New York Times, quote, in some cases, the new machines required too much extra power for aging polling locations, blowing fuse fuses and never powering on. And others, workers who were still being trained just days before the election, they struggled with the setup. Then the Times goes on to write, quote, the electronic poll books also knew were plagued by freezing software and user error. Now keep in mind, during the presidential election, Dominion voting machines, they were used in all of Georgia's 159 counties. And as we all know, that is a state with a razor-thin margin. So the question must be asked, by the way, don't expect the media mob to ever ask it,
Amen.
Are Dominion systems prone to human error? 72 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. All of them, all of us, deserve an answer. And that's not
And
the
we won't
only
get it.
concern being raised. In 2018,
About 3 years.
Liberal AP reporting that Dominion, quote, long skimped on security in favor of convenience, making it more difficult to detect intrusions. In fact, Dominion voting systems were rejected 3 times by data communications experts from the Texas Secretary of State and Attorney General's office for failing to meet basic, simple security standards. Once rejected in 2013, twice rejected in 2019. That would be last year. In 2018, a prominent tenured Princeton professor who specializes in election machinery, policy, security, his name is Andrew Appel, he issued an op-ed blasting Dominion over security concerns. And according to the professor, quote, the Dominion ImageCast evolution looks like a pretty good voting machine, but it has a serious design flaw. After you mark your ballot and after you review your ballot, the voting machine can print more votes on it. Yeah, it's a big problem. He then goes on, quote, of course, the legitimate software installed by Dominion won't do that, but the machine is physically capable of it, and fraudulent software can exploit that ability. And during a hearing on Capitol Hill 2017, Dr. Appel, remember, tenured professor, Princeton, I would assume a pretty smart guy, explained how fraudulent software could be used to seriously alter elections. Wow, just 2 short years ago. Take a look.
Each voting machine is a computer running a computer program. Whether that computer counts the votes accurately or makes mistakes or cheats by shifting votes from one candidate to another depends on what software is installed in the computer. Installing new software is how you hack a voting machine to cheat. I wrote a vote-stealing computer program that shifts votes from one candidate to another. Installing that vote-stealing program in a voting machine takes 7 minutes per machine with a screwdriver. But really, the software I built was not rocket science. Any computer programmer could write the same code. Once it's installed, it could steal elections without detection for years to come.
Now, am I saying tonight this happened with Dominion?
Okay.
Cycle? No.
All right. So it'll be years to come. So in other words, they can take a screwdriver off this Dominion where it receives your ballot. All right. And the software that's in it, someone can switch the software in it, write a code, put a software in it, and double up or triple up votes for one candidate or another. So now you know, all right, if you have something like that, you don't use it. And that's a stolen election. In my opinion. There is no way on God's green earth that Joe Biden got 78 million votes, that he got more votes than Barack Obama, who is far more popular than he could ever be. Okay? So we had fraud by mail-in, fraud by absentee in some states where there's not really stringent rules, and this Dominion software. And so the question is now, people are asking, what do we do now? What do we do now? Because all kinds of legal fights are going on. But this is how we got here. COVID was used to install all this kind of stuff in these battleground states. The mail-in voting fraud, and even with that, it's still razor thin. That shows you how much a landslide it was going to be for President Trump. And nobody is allowed to ask. Neil Cavuto cut off Kelly McEnany, when she started to say there's voter fraud, she didn't let her finish. And she's about to say, we have 234 affidavits. He was like, where's the proof? I can't in good conscience do that and everything. All right. Fox News is finished. Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker, they need to move over. Newsmax of One American News Network. People move over with them and let Fox go to the wolves. They're not a source for truth anymore. And truth and righteousness. Because that's what we need right now. We need truth and righteousness, and we're not getting that right now. We're not getting truth and righteousness. I will always vote for a biblical worldview. I know that whoever's going to run is going to be fallible. I knew Donald Trump is fallible. I know he's had a past and everything. But one thing I do know, that he's a very patriotic man, and he loves this country, and he always has. He always has. He's always, when I say love the country, all right, but the country has allowed him to become a billionaire and succeed and all the other stuff, all right, he loves that, and he loves to see other people succeed too. There's something in his genetic makeup code or whatever it is that he likes to see people be successful regardless of their gender or race or any of that kind of stuff. But we have watched, remember this, COVID-19 was the excuse to install and put all this software, these voting machines that could be tampered with, the software could be tampered with by a computer code, by unscrewing it, and it takes all but 7 minutes. All but 7 minutes. Now, if I was in the Supreme Court, that's just my phone. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's somebody saying, hey, you just played my message. Okay. So no questions will be asked. And here's what's going to happen. Here's what I'm afraid. It's politically speaking. People are just going to go back to their lives. If President Trump loses it, and I think he's probably going to, I don't see a path for him. He does have the legal path that in a sane world, he'd win in a second. But we're going to be returning back to the system of the Antichrist. All right, put it up here. The system of Antichrist. And this is what's behind it all. Now, people have their own free will and they can vote. All right. But God did not will this election to go to Joe Biden. All right. This was nefarious, Antichrist motivated people that switched this up with the paper ballots. And this goes deeper than we can imagine. And from here on out, don't expect fair and transparent national elections. I'm telling you right now, I do not believe. And some people might who watch this say, well, thank God, don't thank God. All right. Don't thank God. I know people in my family that voted for this, and I'm thinking myself, it's like, and you cannot be a Christian. You cannot be a Christian and vote for a person that is into the business of murdering children. I'm sorry. That makes you an accessory to murder. If you don't like me, you don't have to watch this. And I'm tired of hearing about rape or the mother's life's in danger. Very rare. Very rare. And how did we get to that? Women getting raped and everything. I'll talk about that one day. Just doesn't happen in a vacuum. You think that the girl in church is getting raped? Highly doubt it. Very rare. When people are taught that basically we're just animals and just and they can take sex when they want it, that's when these bad things happen. But that's a discussion for another day. So all I can tell you is people are asking, Brother Kevin, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? As what if there's more lockdowns? Well, we can pray against that. We can pray against at least the heart of these people. And that's what we have to pray now. We have to pray when Joe Biden becomes president of the United States. We have to pray, if he does, we have to pray that somehow God pushes on his heart and those people around him not to lock this nation down again. Because I just read the Breitbart article where one of his advisory people said we shouldn't have locked down in spring. So they're starting to talk like pretty much that they're not going to lock down the nation. Because you know what he said, he's going to end fracking, and then we don't know what's going to happen. But we can pray and take authority over it the best we can and have faith in one mind and one accord. They don't lock this nation down because, people are just starting to rebuild their small little businesses again and put food on their table and take care of their families. And if they hit them again with a lockdown, they'll lose everything. They'll lose everything. But that's what they want. That's what the Antichrist want. He want that one world government, one world. You know the drill. One world, everything. And remember, we found out what the essential jobs are. And if you owned a hair salon, because you had a skill, or you teach music like I do, because you have a skill to share, a church, shut down churches too, but or limiting them in certain states. There's other businesses and small businesses that will never come back, that were completely and utterly decimated. If you're not part of the corporate machine, you're not essential, basically. If you have the entrepreneurial spirit to go out and do it by yourself and alone as a sole proprietor, all right, guess what? They want to break you. And I say what I mean the spirit of Antichrist wants to break you. But you can fight against that. Resist the devil and he shall flee from you. And keep resisting. Keep resisting. So you're going to have to pray that this man doesn't be such a puppet. Because that's essentially what it is. President Trump was no puppet. Neither was Ronald Reagan. And neither was John F. Kennedy. One was killed. One was assassination attempt. John Hinckley Jr. And I'm just talking here in modern time, as modern as I can to my older audience. And Trump, they pulled this. They pulled this. They tried impeachment. All that kind of failed. And I was afraid they would assassinate him. And but that didn't happen, thank God. So those are the people who are actually for the American, they were for the American people. The rest of them are just puppets and warmongers, in my opinion. And the spirit of Antichrist is behind that and the New World Order. And so next week, I'm going to do what's next for Christians. What's next for us? We're probably going to find out the outcome of this, but what's next for you real Christians out there? Not CNOs, Christians in name only, not people who are into liberal theology, like some people in my family. All right. It just sickens me. All right. But what's next? What are we supposed to do as Christians? All right. Did God will this to happen? No, he didn't. That's not what the Bible says. We have more free will and a massive amount of free will. I'm tired of people misusing God's sovereignty. Stop misusing God's sovereignty. Okay? So next week, where do we go as a Christian? This might become a 3-parter, but this is election update. Right now, we don't know. It doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. And I figure it's going to go to the Supremes, but it doesn't even look like that's going to happen. And so the direction of this country is going to go backwards. It's not going to be progressive. To me, conservatism is progressive. When you get more jobs and more people being successful and things of that nature, and no wars going on. That's progress to me. But I'm not an establishment person. I'm a free thinker, and I have a biblical world view, as I should. All right, and if people don't like me for it, oh, go punch sand then. All right, because I'm not changing. I'm going to rock and roll and I'm going to worship God. I'm going to teach music. I'm going to rock and roll. And I'm going to praise God and keep preaching His message. All right. Now, he said this is politics and everything, but this affects what's going to happen in prophecy, and it affects Christians. You have a right to know because it affects the world. American elections affect the world. Remember that. Remember that. So next week, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here as Christians? All right. And so this is Brother Kevin. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Share this with all your friends and say, subscribe to this channel. Help it. We got 12 subscribers. My goal is to get it to 100, then 200 and everything. And we're just going to keep going and going and going and going. And I'm just going to keep putting videos up. So, try to get better equipment and everything. But, you work with what you have and you just keep pressing on. So I love you all. God bless you. Have a blessed night or a blessed day. And I shall see you next week. Good night.